you say, the sex and the way you move.
Yes, you can have access to news at all times and even before they reach the newsstands. Simply download the Graphic News Plus from Google Play Store on your Android and App Store on your iOS device and get your digital news from your favorite daily graphic, graphic business, the Mirror, graphic showbiz, junior graphic, and graphic sports. Download your Graphic News Plus now and choose your preferred package daily, weekly, monthly, and annually, and access free news on various interest areas as well. Visit us on graphic.com.gh for further information. Graphic News Plus, connecting people through news. Have you thought of having access to your news at any time and anywhere? Graphic Communication is giving you the opportunity to have news not only in hard copy but also in a digital form. Yes, you can have access to news at all times and even before they reach the newsstands. Simply download the Graphic News Plus from Google Play Store on your Android and App Store on your iOS device and get your digital news from your favorite daily graphic, graphic business, the Mirror, graphic showbiz, junior graphic, and graphic sports. Download your Graphic News Plus now and choose your preferred package daily, weekly, monthly, and annually, and access free news on various interest areas as well. Visit us on graphic.com.gh for further information. Graphic News Plus, connecting people through news. Have you thought of having access to your news at any time and anywhere? Graphic Communication is giving you the opportunity to have news not only in hard copy but also in a digital form. Yes, you can have access to news at all times and even before they reach the newsstands. Simply download
the form of protests from the Gold Coast nationalists who feared that a newspaper company owned by a British national would frustrate their fight for independence from Britain. Graphic Communications Group Limited, or GCGL, was established as a private business in 1950 by the Daily Mirror Group of Britain. At that time, the company was named the West African Graphic Company Limited. Cecil Hamsworth King Jr., who was in charge of the Daily Mirror's Group West African operations, was the founder chief executive of the company. Company appointed Martin Thurston Kofi, a Ghanaian, as the first editor of the Daily Graphic and later the Sunday Mirror, which is now the Mirror.
When the graphic newspaper was established in
and anywhere. Graphic Communication is giving you the opportunity to have news not only in hard copy but also in a digital form. Yes, you can have access to news at all times and even before they reach the newsstands. Simply download the Graphic News Plus from Google Play Store on your Android and App Store on your iOS device and get your digital news from your favorite daily graphic, Graphic Business, The Mirror, Graphic Showbiz, Junior Graphic, and Graphic Sports. Download your Graphic News Plus now and choose your preferred package daily, weekly, monthly, and annually, and access free news on various interest areas as well. Visit us on graphic.com.gh for further information. Graphic News Plus, connecting people through news.
The wisdom, you are the giver of knowledge. You know all things. As we begin this program, we ask that you lead us by your Spirit, guide us successfully through this program, and help us, O God, to arrive at decisions and plans that will help move this nation forward. This we ask in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
You may be seated. So let me, on behalf of the management of the UPSA and also the leadership of the UPSA School of Graduate Studies, welcome you to this annual event where a group of eminent persons have been so selected to speak to us today. Now, let me quickly establish that this program is live on Asasi Radio, 99.5 megahertz. And so we welcome everyone who has joined us on Asasi Radio, 99.5 megahertz, and also on our Facebook pages and all that. There are other media partners helping in this program. There's Graphic Business. Thank you very much, Graphic Business, for your efforts, and also TV3, one of the best television stations we have in our country. And so we really want to thank you for coming to this event. We will quickly take the school anthem. So please rise up to your feet as we take the school anthem. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your patience. Please be seated. So, the UPSA School of Graduate Studies holds an annual seminar series, The Practitioners Forum, and it's part of the curriculum for the award of MPhil and MSc/MBA degrees at the School of Graduate Studies. The theme for this year's program is Business Restructuring, Strategies for Revamping Business in Crisis. Obviously, this year, beginning from last year in March, the whole world was hit with the COVID-19 crisis, and that means that businesses have struggled. And so the theme for this annual event couldn't have been much better than it is. Quickly, as we go to the program, I think it would be wrong for me not to introduce myself. My name is Wilberforce Asare. I work with Asasi Radio, and I will be your MC for this ceremony. Quickly, let's invite the Dean of the graduate, the School of Graduate Studies, and that will be Dr. John Mensah Mauto, as he gives us the welcome address by the Dean.
Thank you. His Royal Majesty, Honorable Akumia, staff and faculty members of UPSA, cherished alumni, our cherished students, media, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor of UPSA and the School of Graduate Studies, I am very elated to welcome you to this year's edition of the Practitioners Forum, which has become an important annual event for our final year students for the past 10 years. This forum offers our final year students the opportunity to be challenged and equipped with practical experiences shared by captains of industry. For our students, it is our honest expectation that as you interact with our speakers, you will be inspired to make a difference in wherever you find yourself. In fact, following the opportunities and challenges posed by the ravaging effects of COVID-19, we are inspired to have come out with this program and christened it Business Restructuring, Strategies for Revamping Business in Crisis. I'm very pleased this evening once again entreating you to pay attention and then learn from this event. Thank you.
Dean, please do not go. You are going to do us the honors of introducing the chairperson so we can take the chairperson's remarks immediately. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, His Royal Majesty. I'm privileged this evening to be called upon to introduce the chairperson. For the chairperson is a man of God, a reverend minister. He's not just a vice chancellor, but he's a father to all. The staff, faculty, and students of the University of Professional Studies. With this singular honor, I'm privileged to introduce Professor Abednego Oko Fehi Amate as the chairman of this program.
Good evening. I said good evening to my students. And I'm tempted to tell Dr. Mauto that the mistake that everybody makes is say Oko Fehi is Fehi Oko. It's not quantitative. Thank you so much. Your Royal Majesty, Osajifu Ofuripin, Osajifu Amwetia Ofuripin, the King of Achem Iwaka, the Honorable Nana Akomia, the CEO of Intercity State Housing Corporation Company, the alumni present, my faculty and fellow members of management, my dear graduate students, and thank you for deciding to make me the chairman. I'm not used to being a chairman for occasions like this. What I know I'm good at doing is signing checks as a vice chancellor, especially when the fees are being paid. So thank you for the confidence in me. And I want to welcome everyone for this important program. It's a program we do every year, an annual event that we call the Practitioners Forum. And the idea is that UPSA is not like your normal university. We are the only public institution that is mandated to offer both degree and professional programs. If my memory serves me right, the entire world, you don't find any institution like that. It's only UPSA that you have this. And so naturally, our curriculum will be different from others. We place a lot of premium on offering and teaching our students how to perform on the job market. So this program, which is a scoring program, is meant to equip us with skills that not only do we get A's in the classroom, but also we get A's when we get to the field as well. And that's the background. So for the umpteenth time, we have this program, and I'm glad that we are beautifully dressed and we are seated here today. And we don't want it to be a talk shop. Our idea is that based on the seasoned people we have here to teach us, based on the experience, we are going to learn from them. We are going to practice them. So please, I want to believe that you have your notebooks and your pens or your laptops and phones. You take the appropriate notes and ensure that you go and live by the principles that they will espouse this afternoon. Of course, the theme we have, as mentioned earlier, is on how to restructure businesses and the strategies for revamping business in crisis. Now, you agree with me that, as mentioned earlier, these are unusual times. This happens once in 100 years where you have crisis like this. It's affected virtually every aspect of the economy. At least I know from where I sit that it has affected my students because the tuition fees are not paid the usual times. You get letters all over pleading that they should defer the payment. Meanwhile, when you do purchases, we don't defer payment. But I appreciate the impact that it has had. And we appreciate that it's all business across, not just Ghana, the world. We can't sit down and keep our hands folded. There has to be solutions. And the typical UPSA will try to find solutions to this. So as we go out in the world, the focus is to learn how to thrive in the midst of this crisis. That is a UPSA response. And that's why we are having this program. But the good thing is that we don't want to keep what we have to ourselves, which is why we have gone public. And as we sit here, this program is aired live on Assassin Radio. We want to say thank you so much, so that Ghana will hear, Ghana will listen. And therefore, I'm asking every one of us to be attentive, pay attention. We are privileged to have one of the most astute statesmen here with us this afternoon. It's my prayer that as we go through this, it's going to be useful and worthwhile. Thank you so much for making me the chairman. Bless you.
Thank you very much, Professor Abednego Amate. He spoke like a professor. He chose his words very carefully. So, the next person going to be speaking is a man that I know, and looking at the theme that has been chosen for this particular practitioners forum, I believe that he's more than qualified to speak. However, I will not be the one introducing him. I will invite the Deputy Director of Public Affairs here at the UPSA, Ivy Hayward Mills, to do same.
Your Majesty, Nananom, Professor Amatia, Vice Chancellor, Directors, Deans, and faculty members, students, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to introduce to you our keynote speaker for today. He'll be speaking to our theme, Business Restructuring, Strategies for Revamping Business in Crisis. Born in Achim Sutem in the Fantiakwa district of the Eastern region, our keynote speaker for today is a seasoned communications professional and politician who obtained his Bachelor of Arts degree and postgraduate diploma in communication studies from the University of Ghana, Legon. In 1996, he was elected into the Ghanaian parliament, where he was the youngest NPP parliamentarian at the time. And for 16 years, he diligently served his constituents in Okankwe South. He was Deputy Minister for Tourism from 2001 until 2003, and Minister for Information from 2003 to 2004. He was Minister for Youth and Employment and Manpower Development from 2007 to 2008. He served as Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party from 2009 until 2016. He's currently the Managing Director of Intercity STC Coaches Limited, where he has worked from May 2017 to date. The reforms he brought to the role has seen the unprecedented transformation and revival of the transport company, making it competitive and attractive to commuters. Your Majesty, Mr. Chairman, Nananom, ladies and gentlemen, with a resounding round of applause, let us welcome Honorable Nana Akomia as he speaks to us on proven and practicable strategies for revamping organizations to promote business sustainability and growth in the midst of crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivy. Your Majesty, Sajifo Amwetia, Oforipenyi, and his elders. I understand that the Sajifo came with an entourage of 40 elders, representing their traditional kente, showcasing our culture. The chairman for the occasion, who is also our vice chancellor, members of the University Council and management, ladies and gentlemen. I noticed that my beloved colleague Titus Glover is also here. It is my great pleasure to be here to be part of this interaction. Now, I must confess immediately that I am an Achinkwa, which means I am a subject of the great Ochehini. I must let you know that quickly. It's always a great pleasure to speak in the presence of Sajifo Amwetia. You don't have to be an Achinkwa to recognize that your Sajifo is taking chieftaincy to new heights. You don't have to be an Achinkwa to recognize that. This is a man who believes that the honor he enjoys as your Sajifo can only be sustained on the welfare of his people, and that his honor cannot be divorced from the welfare of his people. And if I were to go into the projects that have lifted the welfare of the people of Achime Buakwa, we will probably not leave this place tonight. But the records are very clear. He's been known as the king of the environment before all of us were forced into environmental matters by Galamsey. Way before that, the Ochehini has been known as the king of the environment. Today, the whole country is seized with environmental issues because of Galamsey. Fortunate combination of circumstances. Ochehini is a cousin to the president, who is also taking a cue from his cousin, is determined to rid this country of Galamsey. What a beautiful combination of circumstances. Ochehini, the king of the environment, and the president, leading us in the fight. I have no doubt that the fight against Galamsey and environmental degradation would be won with this combination of people in this country today. Now, when I looked at the invitation letter that I had, and also, A couple of days ago, I also was made to understand that the Ochehini is also taking on some spiritual forces in the wake of the murders that took place in the reduction in the patronage of the government or the state or the taxpayer and being left to face the harsh reality of competition. You know, many of the state enterprises ran into difficulties. STC was no exception. And in the period, particularly from 1975, there were a lot of difficulties with the state enterprise organizations. including STC. Many of these state organizations went underground. They collapsed, they couldn't function, and they were put on divestiture. STC did a little better. It never went completely underground. It continued in one form or the other, trying to make its way. It didn't collapse completely like some of the other state institutions. But like I said, it barely survived. When things got really bad, the state, out of nostalgic reasons, will come in, offer some support in the form of a fleet of buses here and there. But it was difficult sustaining a profitable operation. Finally, 1999 or thereabouts, the state got tired of supporting and eventually put a company up for sale, for divestiture. That's has been the fate of many other state organizations. So by 2000, the year 2000, the sale had been completed and a private enterprise took over the company, and it was renamed VANEF, STC. But the difficulties did not stop. And in the period from 2000 to 2003, did not see any significant improvement in the fortunes of the company, despite the injection of private management and private and entrepreneurial ability. It was still difficult for the company. So in 2004, thereabouts, the state had to go and rescue the company by renationalizing the company in 2004. Some support came, but it was just hand to mouth, barely breaking even. If you take the period 1992 up to 2014, so over a period of over 20 years, the company got an injection of about 250 buses. But it was difficult to keep afloat. So the state considered again, around about 2014, to privatize or put a company back on divestiture. The management at that time made an appeal to the government to be given a last chance, a last opportunity. Fortunately, the government agreed and gave the company another lifeline. Now, the perennial problem has been just how to run the buses profitably for the state to really be afloat. That had been the difficulty over the period, especially after 1975, in a ding-dong manner up to 2014, having been given out to private people and having been taken back and all of that. The primary problem was how to run the buses profitably. Now, if you couldn't run the buses profitably, all kinds of problems. Your cash flow, your working capital will not be enough. You will not be able to maintain the buses. So they will break down frequently. You lose your passengers. You will not be able to replace the fleet. You would have a very high bus to staff ratio. An ideal ratio of one bus to staff is 1 to 4. In those days, STC had 1 to 15. That one bus was supporting 15 staff, which was about 4 times more than it could. So salaries would suffer. They had to take loans to pay salaries. And so your debts will keep mounting, you will not be able to pay your suppliers, and all of that. So the central problem of the difficulty in running the buses profitably brought in its wake all of this vicious cycle of problems. Some of the times were really desperate. And the company, on several occasions, had to take desperate measures to survive. Selling of the properties of the company, one of the means. Large tracts of land were sold, both at head office and some of the regions were sold to raise money to pay salaries, to keep the company afloat. Divisions of the company, the haulage division, for example, had to be given away to creditors. Even the MD's bungalow at Roman Ridge had to be sold. It's a good thing that I have my own small house, otherwise it would have been difficult. Even the MD's bungalow had to be sold to be able to. So these had been the issues surrounding the operation of the company. And these issues, you'll find them very common in many of the state organizations. And that's why many of them were put on divestiture and so on. So, like I said, in 2014, the government was toying with the idea of giving it back to the private sector. But the management at that time did very well. My predecessor, Mr. Nkrumah Donko, managed to convince the government to give the company one more lifeline. And so in 2016, the government at the time was able to supply 50 buses to the company in one last lifeline. So from October 2016, the company had a new lease of life, given 50 coaches. There were still difficulties. There were still about half that fleet always parked at the head office because it was difficult moving those buses. So you have about 22 to 23 buses redundant. So that doesn't improve your cash flow, it doesn't improve your working capital, it doesn't improve your staff to bus ratio if you have almost half the fleet standing idle all the time. Now the problem why they couldn't, even after this lifeline had been thrown to them in October 2016, reason why about half the fleet could not be moved was because the biggest part of intercity passenger traffic, which is the Accra, Kumasi, and Kumasi Accra, had been locked out, and the company could not break through. In the long period of decline, very energetic private companies have come and taken over that market. And so STC, coming back in 2016, found it difficult to break into that market. And that particular route is the biggest route for commercial transport. And if you are not there, then you are not playing. And the STC couldn't break through. The major players like VIP, which had a fleet of over 500 buses, they have a chokehold on that route. So 8 months after these 50 buses arrived, I got to the company with a new management team. I had a new deputy for operations, Mr. Sintima Bwaji. I had a new deputy for finance, Ajubi and Ponsa Norte. And in May 2017, we set about trying to see if we could turn the situation around. It was a desperate situation You didn't have buses. Now you have the buses, but you couldn't operate all of them. Any establishment will feel desperate in that situation. And STC also felt desperate. The board in May 2017 asked me to do all I could to change the situation, to bring the company back to profitability. With the new team we set about, we did looked at all the aspects of the company's operations. Beyond the inability to run buses profitably, there were some practices that also drained the company a lot. Many of them had to do with workers' welfare. So, for example, you could convert your leave into cash. So nobody went on leave. The leave days became a gold mine. Those became the pension for people. So people will go on pension, and 70% of the entitlements were leave days converted to cash. And the sums of monies were huge. If somebody's worked for 15, 16, 20 years, look at the leave that they accumulate, and then they can convert it all to cash. There's a big millstone hanging around the neck of the company. We also had this nice colonial practice where if you were posted to a station of the company outside Ghana, like the colonial days, you got 300% rise in salary automatically. Now the company had terminals in Francophone, Abidjan, Ouagadougou, Lomé, and Cotonou. So if you were posted to any of those places, your salary went up 200%, 250%, 300% automatically. So these were major difficulties that affected the profitability of the company. It was difficult to touch them because they had been entrenched and they were enjoyed by the very workers. So to be able to deal with them, we needed a new structure of management. So we set about creating a new management structure. And what we did was simply to expand the management front from the traditional managing director, deputies, and the directors. We brought in representatives from every division of the company. So the drivers rep, the ticketing staff rep, the workshop representatives, the unions represent the bosses of the unions, finance, the audit, accounts. We had all of them bring representatives to come onto the management. So that became the new front of the management. And we would meet every week on Mondays. And together with the new excitement that comes with any new management, we had this new management structure. People felt included. We managed to reverse these anomalies. So if you were the accountant, you were posted as the accountant to Abidjan, you didn't get 300% of your salary, 300 more percent. You were paid as an accountant to be paid in Côte d'Ivoire. If you were posted to Cotonou, you were paid as the accountant in Cotonou would get. So that brought enormous savings to the company. We also managed to roll back the conversion of leave to cash. And it was remarkable because the management, which comprised the staff, they were benefiting from this. It was remarkable that all of them were able to see the bigger picture and agreed to roll back some of these difficulties. Now, there were also some businesses of the company that were not core, but they were like non-core businesses, parcels, the valuation, the driving school. What we set about doing was what has been done at UPSA to operate them along purely commercial lines. So we advertise for tenders to come, private people to come and run the driving school, to come and run the parcels department, to come and run the valuation. We invited tenders. Private entrepreneurs came, they brought their proposals, we selected the best of them. Now, the government of Ghana itself had entered into some privatizations, and it wasn't like Vodafone. Unfortunately, I was in Parliament at that time. They had this partnership, equity. It's so difficult to get some money. I'm sure you business school, you know that more than I do. They will never declare a profit. They would come to you and say, we have to go and buy some new machine, bring some of the 30% of the cost. I'm sure if you went to see how much we have made from Vodafone, you'll find out that there's a lot of assets now, but in terms of cash, it will not be much. So taking a cue, when the private people came to bid for these divisions, we didn't ask for partnership. We said, we'll lease it to you. So you go and evaluate it and tell us how much you can give us. If you made more than that, that is your reward. But you tell us how much you give us. Now with that strategy, we got, for example, our parcels department used to give us 100,000 cedis a month. We got 350,000 from that arrangement. The valuation department used to give us 80,000 cedis a month. We got 240,000 from that arrangement. The driving school didn't give us any money at all. Now it gives us about 8,000 cedis a month. And it's been private capital has come in, new machines. It's probably the most modern driving school in the country, with sophisticated simulators that you can go in there and simulate every road condition in the country, in the world. If you want snow, to give you driving under snow, driving in the rain, driving under the sun, driving on bad roads, whatever. Sometimes I go there myself to sit in the simulator. It's the best driving school, all from this strategy. And they pay us 8,000 cedis a month. So with that out of the way, we now have to confront the elephants in the room. How to break into Kumasi and make the bus operations, which is the core business, to make it profitable. There were all kinds of stories. We were told that there were curses. People had come to bury cows on the premises. We were told that some of our key people were in the employment of VIP and so on, just to make sure that STC did not rise. We were even told that one big traditional ruler in the Ashanti region had some interest in one of the competitors, and he had sworn that STC will not operate in Kumasi. So the management at that time was looking at how they could deal with these problems. Exorcists were considered at some point, came in. Delegations were planned to go to Kumasi to speak to this traditional ruler, to all of them. But And then I was given a tall list of people who were saboteurs that I needed to sack. But one thing struck out. In fact, at one time, it was thought that maybe the publicity about the new buses was not good enough. So they brought in, they had popular radio, afternoon radio shows, broadcast live from the terminal, just to ginger out some publicity. It was still difficult. But the new management under myself and my colleagues, we realized something, that on some weekends, people would come to board the buses at the terminal. Now, in this period, even the new buses, STC would load maybe 4 buses from the terminal to Kumasi. VIP will load 80 buses a day. STC will load 4. But on some weekends, people will come to the terminal and you find about 10 buses being loaded. So we investigated why on those weekends we got some passenger flow to Kumasi. We realized that when there were huge funerals in Kumasi, and also there's some church, it's called Mokpa or something. And when the Mokpa was in session, people would move from Accra to go and attend the prayer sessions, and they would come back and they would rent hundreds of buses to go to this Mokpa. And so during those weekends, the demand for buses was so big that STC got some. So it was very clear that it wasn't cases or saboteurs or some big chief who didn't like STC, but there was a more fundamental problem. And it dawned on us quickly that the fundamental problem was that the situation of the terminal had made the terminal redundant. Now, the way it plays out is this. Those of you who have cars, you can just drive to STC because you've heard that it's reliable and safe. You can drive to the terminal. But for every one of you who's traveling to Kumasi and has a car and can drive and park your car and sit on the bus, there are another 500 people who are also traveling to Kumasi who do not have cars. They will take the trotro or the taxi from all over the city, Kokomemle, Newtown, Choko, Adabraka, that's so bad. They will take the taxi or the trotro. The trotro will put them at the Nkrumah circle. Now, when they get out of the trotro with one bag, just across the street is VIP. Next to the trotro station is OA, Transport Company. On the left is VVIP. STC is a kilometer away. So that was the problem. That was the whole problem. So we decided to test it. My operations people, led by Mr. Tim Abuaji, set about getting a small loading point at Nkrumah Circle, just to test the belief that we had that the problem was the access. And the very first day we did that, just the bare ground. There was opposition. People said, no, STC cannot go to Circle, it is muddy. Our passengers will get their shoes dirty, and STC is posh. But you couldn't pay your salary, so you were posh. So we went there on the first day, and on that very first day, on the bare earth, an umbrella for the ticket people to sit under, we did 13 buses to Kumasi. So it showed us that we were onto something good. And indeed, just after 2 or 3 days, all the buses that were sitting down, the 22, 23, were in Kumasi. They couldn't come back. So there was a new problem. Now, the problem in Accra of access is the same problem in Kumasi. We have this colonial terminal at a place called Edum. Those of you who know Kumasi. But the main trotro dropping points for the passengers was at Asafo, which is about another 1.5 or 2 kilometers from Etu. So that was it. So all these 22, 23 buses had gone, taking passengers from Circle to Edum, and they couldn't return because they couldn't get passengers. So the next thing to do there was to go to Kumasi and get a place at Asafo. Our competitors suddenly realized that, hey, these people, their eyes are opening. So they resisted our coming to Asafo to operate. It was a big issue. I don't know, many of you may remember that for about 3-4 days, there was this standoff in Kumasi because STC was coming to load at Asafo. They've come to Circle. Now they've gone to Asafo. It means they are seeing the trick. They have to be stopped. Eventually, the issues were resolved, and then we started loading at Asafo. So Circle, Asafo. Now, these two terminals quickly raised the revenue of the company from 3 million to 5.2 million cedis a month. So there was a new confidence in the company. Everybody wanted to be our friend. We were paying our creditors. Suppliers we owed 10 years back. They will come, we vet, audit, we pay. We're paying SNIT. We're paying Ghana Revenue Authority. We're paying. We now become a proper corporate citizen. The banks were coming on to us. Even the government of Ghana, we started paying them some money. Of course, the government of Ghana, after being used to always putting in money, they couldn't believe that SCC was bringing them some money. So, after 6 months, wanted to go and give the government of Ghana $700,000. The finance minister wouldn't give us an appointment. They thought it was a ruse to come and make some more demands on the taxpayer. Had to take a long time. And then we managed to meet and gave him $700,000. 6 months later, we wanted to go and give them $1 million. That one too, it took a lot of pleading to be given the appointment to go and pay because they still couldn't believe that STC was actually bringing them some money. But another problem then came up. So we are at Circle. Now we've done the nice terminal there. We were at Asafo. People had realized that STC was now available. So when they got them from their trotro, some would go to VIP, but some would also come to STC. The immediate problem there was that we didn't have enough buses. The 22, 23 buses we had dedicated to the Accra, Kumasi, and Kumasi were not enough. So people would now come to the terminal and sit there for 2 hours. It's a problem. So we leveraged the payments that we were making to governments, and the banks were now coming on to us. And we had a deal with the ADB Bank, Agricultural Development Bank. They gave us 13 million, and we provided $4.5 million, and we ported 100 new buses. So the sky was going to be the limit for the company. So that really, in a nutshell, is the story. Thinking outside the box over the Circle, the Kumasi routes, really lifted the company and made it a viable company. Leveraging on that thinking outside the box, as I speak, we have established terminals in Kaswa, in Amasaman, We are going to Medina shortly, which will be close to UPSA, so we can have climb our buses. We're having terminals in Ashiaman, opening very soon. Look at the cluster of population in Ashiaman, the cluster of population in Medina. But nobody will travel from Medina to Nkrumah Circle. But if you bring your new buses to Medina, then the people will have access and they will climb. So, based on that same strategy, Nkrumah Circle, we're establishing terminals all over. We're establishing terminals in Goso, in Chiman, in the Boku, in Naderigu, the second one in Sunyani, the second one at Abripo in Kumasi. So we have every confidence that a model that works with Circle and Asafu is going to work with Medina, is going to work with Ashiaman, is going to work with Abripo, is going to work with the Chiman and all of that. And so the 100 buses have come, and the terminals are also going up. So, to summarize, you need first to build a broad front, wherever you find yourself, whether as an accountant. Build a front with auditing and finance. If you're an auditor, many of you are going to be auditors. Build a front with finance, accounts, and so on. Wherever you find yourself, don't operate alone. There's an old word for it, team building. Build your own team. So you think through your accounting issues with the auditor and the finance people. You think through your auditing issues with somebody else. So you find out that when a decision is taken, it has a decision that in tree, they say, which means the wisdom is not in one head. I wouldn't go too much there because it's large before you're sitting there. You don't want to go into too much traditional wisdom. So, in whatever sphere that you find yourself, always try and build a coalition. Always. And many of you are going to find yourself in management. You'll be told stories. That woman, she's not for us. That man, he's not good crowd. Look beyond that and bring everybody on board. So the collective decision is always stronger than the single. Here, if the Vice Chancellor took a decision, then you hear the Vice Chancellor has ordered that blah, 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 as against the University Councilor's order. Which one has weight? The collective one. So that's what we did at STC, building a broad management front. So the drivers were there, the workshop people were there, the ticketing staff were there, and they were all part of decision making. And then also operate closely to the market. What you've done here is a clear example of how, when you operate closely to the market, you'll be able to get market premium and do what you have to do. UPSA is a prime example of that. JIMPA was an earlier example, and UPSA is even taking it beyond JIMPA from what I have seen. So every problem, like they say, is an opportunity to make money or to make an impact. If there's no problem, how do you make an impact? So do not be daunted by problems. See a problem as an opportunity to establish yourself, to make an impact or to make more money. Let me give you a postscript. So last week, from Monday the 19th of April to Sunday, the 25th. Circle to Asafo, we did 141 trips. And Asafo to Circle, we did 177 trips. So this clearly shows how thinking out of the box. So whatever problem you are faced, there's a regular saying, if you keep doing the same things, you are not going to get different results. So when you go and meet the problem, think outside the box. Check out what is being done and see how you can do it differently if you want to solve the problem. Of course, COVID has presented us with another huge problem that we are facing. And a lot of it is outside our control. During the lockdown in March to April 2020, in that 1 month, we lost 5 million cedis because we couldn't operate at all. When the lockdown was lifted, social distancing was put in place. So for a 40-seater bus, you could only load 20 people, but the fuel was the same. So if you're getting 100 cedis for one bus from Accra to Kumasi, and you're paying 35 cedis for fuel, now you're getting 50 cedis. And so you couldn't pay the 35 cedis for fuel, because then you have nothing. So you could pay 10 cedis. So in those 5 months, we suffered a lot. We lost 6 million cedis from the social distancing in public transport. But there's an even bigger problem, the closure of the borders. Our Francophone operations, carrying people from Abidjan to Ouagadougou, to Lomé, to Cotonou, and back, was our second biggest operation after Kumasi. It gave us 2.2 million cedis every month. So since the borders were closed, every month we've lost 2.2 million cedis. To date, we've lost a total of 26 million cedis. So 5 million cedis in March, April for the lockdown, 6 million cedis for the social distancing period, plus 26 million cedis from the closure of the border. And we have just got 100 buses, and we need money to finish the terminals. But we will think outside the box. If the problems become too difficult, we will come here and tap your brains. Now, I'll take 2 minutes, because many of you young people, you are going to get into politics. I'll give you some small advice. I became an MP in my early 30s, so I know the opportunities it presents for young people. When young people start out after school, after university, they want to get to the top immediately. No. The top is competitive. Start from the bottom. The bottom is not competitive. So when you start going to polling station meetings with your degree in accounting from UPSA, you automatically become the leader at that polling station. And when you are able to put that polling station together, when there's a constituency position, they will come for you. They will hear that, hey, as for go and see what is happening at CMB polling station. There's a new chairman. When they go to meetings, it's well organized. They talk a lot of political sense. They deal with the issues that affect the party and the country. Probably have 6 bottles of Coca-Cola. People will get to hear the constituency. Next time they are looking for youth organizer for the constituency, they will come for you. And next time you go to your youth organizer, start working using it, the knowledge you have here. Next time they are looking for constituency chairman, they will come for you. When they're looking for parliamentary candidates, they will come for you. So start from the bottom. Those of you who, and I know many of you who like to go into politics, this is my advice to you. Don't rush to get to the top. It's very competitive there. But when you start from the bottom, the competition there is not that much. And you can rise much, much, much quicker. So, that is my story. I hope it's been useful. And that is not a completely wasted evening. Thank you very much.
Nana Akomia is the Chief Executive Officer of the Intercity STC Coaches Limited, and we heard him there presenting a rather thought-provoking, detailed account of how the STC was transformed. On the 27th of October 2020, the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, visited the STC, and this is what he said concerning Nana Akomia. He said that the reason for my happiness is because of the story that the Chief Executive Officer told of the state-owned company that is determined to stay on its own feet, pay its way to the world, and contribute rather than to be dependent on the public exchequer. I'm sure Nana Akomia remembers that. So, good story. Thank you for your good work for the country. Some few housekeeping activities, and we will go to the Royal Majesty, or His Royal Majesty, Osajefo Amotia Oforipehin, the Ochehene. We'll hear from him shortly. If you are tuning in to Asasi Radio 99.5 megahertz, we're coming to you live from the UPSA auditorium here at the University of Professional Studies. And the program is actually the Graduate Practitioners Forum 2021. And it's under the theme Business Restructuring, Revamping Strategies for Businesses in Crisis. And shortly, we are going to have the Fapimpong to welcome and to introduce our eminent guest. But before we go on that, I've had word that there is someone's vehicle, GS 8117-17. Your lights are on. Please step out. It's a Renault. Your lights are out there, are on. So please step out and turn them off. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's welcome Fapimpong as they pave way with their cultural performance for us to hear from our eminent guest, His Royal Majesty, Osajefo Amotia Oforipehin.
Ago Omanga deshi ni abrempong Medi obuni di ni ahobrase soronko Eri chechi amu nyina Nejumedi ti wojeme ya dukuna na nitie twam no eti burukusu eti brenkese ni anofram esifram apafram eyirfi ampasechi ena fei eye atekun asre enya kun afre ejentechiriche pepedomankoma wowo awontu atuaso pepedomankoma huru nyinare mu obiara ni tuai se nia sebeka fra won fa nyansapon ni nhyirapon wuramrapon fapempon nsafuyapon sabe won fa nsisi ni biara no onim ewa no kuma mu frititete se oman biara ne mpuntu ejina ne manfo su ene won ban so na sabe mpanga duasa ansana subanpa emu enyuma pa ebefa ne ntama pa efura enya nanpa ejina so ema awontu atiaso pedo man kuma nyina enya ho mfaso pa no na ejina mpanyin pa wantetew pa nhweso pa nhyehyɛ pa ene afutu pa akroso ase bisane se opanyin pa ni yo opanyin pa ni hra opanyin pa onne ochehere osagefo amuetia ofori panyin twentwenkua ya twen no abeko edi eye oman edinim mo ocheman Ghana man ebebeman ene amman pepedo man kuma emu ya hempong ne abrempong ne yine titi ampong ne yirifi ampong ne kwakwedi brampong a wadem pinting sa photograph some pinting de mesma kitchen de me ofia bonkro de ngesia gbajo de wanta kra ma yi merapo jasra meri de umunyara ade wo hon santran ede bum akodi no apreshe apritie ene aprekanwo asoro bese mo hene brempon obrempon hunya fua wa ye kutireku osebo a sebempena duasa woni ni afemfam ine nkyene na nkasa ni o kwa yi bibiri bi hio sebetitiriku a ne ho bom eye biako ye onuado tema abodwokyere no kwaredi enkoden ajumaden onyamisro ne din pa ahorowa no kwasemini eye sen eye ahonya na nkasa ni o Abramu yakuni odo na pese ti osia ahoro ben ne abrewa doku akofo ne bia besi o monti akwada abrempon kokomo zejire bonti brempon ni okuntun gurungu ni odura safo boya chewi ansa so na waye eye otewa nanga nuroti wa mamba nuroti wa denje nyina mba nuroti wa kwabrafo nuroti wa kenzengu nuroti wa kuntumba nuru tewo apampa krambe kuku nuru yire mpia kwa ompere kwa na oprepe awonti ataso pepe do bankuma nyina won yedinen osaji fue kuntungurungwe Ghana man ebebe man amang pepe do bankuma nyina wonti ataso den no wareka wose se waye opening pa wukreti pa esodai pa wuchasa padua ba pa manenhweso pa me ho banfaso pa manne waye sa akwa wantan wona bebo wesa wantan wona bu akwa de goma sa bia kwanta de mare wa hene ayesa ko tutu mo si kotokoti mbonge si mo bembi mego ekume yure kire mo kwa ho ejo ede won kwa ato wonsem abonsupa ensasipa enframapa enianpa ene abodi wura o suro yiro nyankro boncheri ampon kantanka nanti sankananti kanka ngo kramante mbon kanta manto kanto kanka manka kantankra ke jene pahro a etwa ye ho ehia nyinara sabe wabo ho ban do dia ene na ne ayere kan ne se nana o sajefo won kwaso ye kan sa ne ye nwie adenti esa ne se sabe openimada a etusudu wo afe apem ahankron aduonum ena abodi nyina ni wura a oye nyansapon ene nhyirapon sapempon a enkwa ene owuachi abrabo tumi safe nyina ehye ne nsa no na nkasa nam eye sebempen aduasa awofo etitirufu bi so ede eye osagefo Kwame Nkrumah abransa bedu kata yure opambo obirikisi birem okirikra konkrekrao ofuri amanfo ata apie nim kwamframoya kronkron ba ye atiasefo asase so ampani ampa niniani ampa na yampa se nana Kwame Nkrumah abransa bedu kata yure pambo obirikisi birem ofuri ata amanfo ofa inteto pa ehomesua di mwakweten a ewo omanyi ɛne wiase afa ne nyinara mu na nokwasɛ na wom ne sɛ nhomasua a ɛma onipa ben enya ɛyɛ sɛbɛnbɛn aduasa nkrataa mu anuonyam a emu yɛ duru kyɛn ɔsono a ɔda kɔn ho di a na nea ekosi ara ne sɛ nana hyɛ dɛ nya ne sɛ twoo ɛnsi hɔ ara bio ɛyɛ ɛheneme da a ɛto so anan wɔ afe apem ahankron aduɔkron akron mu ɛna akyemansa wɔn asi ahene tu ahene adehyepɔn a wɔdi hyɛnfrɛ na wɔdi kekafrɛ wɔde akoma pa adwempa ɛne anopa esi ne pi ɛfa aman ne amammerɛ kronkron so ɛyɛ biribiara a ehia sɛ fata ɛde ɔsagyefo amoatia ofuri panyin esi ofuri panyin egua kronkron a ɛyɛ apia nim kwafra moya ɔde si chebi ɛne ɔkyema nyinara mu fretete sɛ bɛmpɛn aduasa ɔkyehena ɔto so ɛyɛ aduasa enum a ɔtew ɛyɛ ɔsagyefo kuntunkurunku a ɔto so yɛ bien ntua prɛkopɛ yɛnkɔte na yɛnkɔte biewa mfirihyia pɔrepɔrepɔrepɔre aduonu abien akyi ɔkyeman Ghana man ebibiman ɛne atitiriwfo a wɔwɔ wiase afa ne nyinara di hu adanse kotopee sɛ yiw sɛ yɛka no nnwuma pa nokwasɛm ne ɛho ba mfaso pa ɛwɔ no paretorodo mu di a na akyinnye biara ni ho akyinnye biara ni ho sɛ yɛte ɛyɛ ɔsagyefo amoatia ofori panyin so a yɛasɔre twio adenti ɛsane sɛ manhyia a Ghana man nyinara yɛnhyia na nka yɛhyia akwanhyia no yɛka na yɛreka de akwasi so bio sɛ yɛka ɔkyehene ɔsagyefo amoatia ofori panyin a na yɛreka ɔboa medwamena na awoma na nodwonam a sɛbe wanwe ankasa ne daase bere sɛ yɛka ne daase bere a na yɛnsesa wo din na mmom yɛnim nti a yɛfrɛ wo daase bere wɔ kopiam ɛsane sɛ wo nnwuma pa ahorow ada na dikotope sɛ yiw woyɛ ɔbenfo ɔboafo ɔkomafo ɔkamafo ɔyɛmafo odimafo ogyemafo ɔfamafo ɔmantamboafo kofokokodurofo nokwafo tɛkrɛma pemfo a wone atɛkrɛma pemfo bompo ne mpom atɛkrɛma pemfo ne tɛkrɛma koro yiw atɛkrɛma pemfo ma kwagyina mmoa atɛkyirifa werɛ nkyɛmmadua tramadamfo a wokɔ yɛ konanka so saa bere ɔsagyefue wadaworo ma yɛntu wɔ w'akonnwa so na mmom UPSA adehyepɔn ayɛ krado Ghana adehyepɔn ayɛ krado ebibiman adehyepɔn ayɛ krado atitiriwfo a wɔwɔ wiase afa na nyinara ayɛ krado yie na yɛnyae a nka wadaworo ma wɔma wo mu so kakra ɛretutu ataatae abɛka biribi kakra ɛde akyerɛ mmabun a wɔawɛn waso ɛrepɛ ɛyɛ nsɛmpa a nokwasɛm ne wɔtie fam aba de tua na mɔmpa na ɛho ba mfa so pa ɔsagyefo saa bere wɔre ma wo mu so yi na nea atifi anafo abue atɔe ɛkum anam ɛnɔnɔ ɛhaha ɛdiduro fom anuonyamfo a saa bere wɔahyia wɔ anyara ɛyɛabeda me nara ne sɛ wadaworo kasa
Vice Chancellor, Professor Abednego Okot Amate, my own Honorable Nana Kumia, distinguished senior members of the UPSA, distinguished students from the School of Graduate Studies, staff and other students of UPSA, and distinguished invited guests, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to thank you, the organizers, for this event, for inviting me to be the guest speaker. I attach much importance to this invitation as I do to all engagements I have with young people. As we hear all the time, the future belongs to the youth, and it is their challenge to help shape the future they want. However, it is our responsibility as leaders of the nation and society to create the conditions and even the template for the future we desire. We are indeed your trust. The invitation for me to speak here today gave me a free hand to select the topic of my address. As you all know, there are a number of issues of interest to me on which I do not hesitate to make comments. These include the environment and climate change, youth engagement, economic development culture, development and accountability. This university has over the years transformed into an institution responsible for producing professional graduates to spearhead a new national vision aimed at redirecting Ghana's effort along the path of rapid economic and social development. I am a living witness to the transformation that UPSA has gone through from its inception, 1965, as a private professional business education provided through to be taken over by government in 1978, and later with the introduction of bachelor's degree programs in 2005, and subsequently receiving a presidential charter in September 2008, which conferred on it the status of fully fledged public university. Is it not quite profound that this all-important gathering is taking place at the 3,550 capacity auditorium that was constructed at the cost of 77 million Ghana cedis through an internally generated fund of the university? This development alone can encapsulate the very essence of my address today. Since I'm more convinced that this project was not initiated during the comfort seasons of the university, but was rather a well thought out plan and execution of an idea emanating from a crisis faced by the university. I will therefore on this occasion commend and congratulate the various men and women who have led UPSA to date. Founder Nana J.K. Opoku Ampoma, to immediate past Vice Chancellor Professor Joseph Alabi, and to the current Vice Chancellor Professors Abednego Oko Amate. They have all done well, and we say, Ayuko. I accepted this invitation, notwithstanding the challenges presented by the COVID-19 due to the importance and the timeliness of the subject matter. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in turbulent times, and we're told there are difficult days ahead. Now more than ever, we need a generation of critical thinkers who can contribute towards our global build back from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic is a crisis like no other. It has taken lives, disrupted livelihoods, and knocked more economies into simultaneous recession than at any time since 1873. The economies of emerging developing countries have not been spared. As it stands, mitigating the human and economic disruption brought by COVID-19 has caused Africa's fiscal deficit to rise from 4.7% of GDP in 2019 to 8.7% in 2020. Similarly, Africa's average debt to GDP is forecast to rise from 61% of GDP in 2019 to almost 70% in 2021. Indeed, the legacy of the crisis has weighed heavily on all our economies. Like other economies, Ghana has been hit hard of COVID-19. However, the undoubtedly sterling leadership demonstrated by our dear President Nana Akufo-Addo and his team ameliorated the adverse impact of the pandemic on the people. Indeed, the innovative and decisive intervention implemented by Ghana government to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic won our country's worldwide admiration and commendation. It can be said authoritatively that in Ghana, unlike other places, no public sector employee lost his or her job or even an hour of check wage. Available statistics indicate that rather, employment in the health and education sectors have increased exponentially during the COVID-19 period. But today, I am to speak to you on the topic revamping strategies for business in crisis. Ghana, our past, present, and future. Consistent with its name, Ghana has had a long and checkered history. A history of rise and falls, one of triumphs and tribulations. But let me say this to young people. No country can afford to ignore its history. Neither can it afford to be chained to it. A sense of history preserves continuity. It reminds us of the labors of those who came before us. History, however, becomes a negative factor when it blinds people from the process of change leading to new development. We can honor our history without becoming enslaved by it. Let's just go briefly into our history. On 7th February 1956, the Ghana Independence Act was passed by the British Parliament. On 6 March 1844, a group of chiefs and kings in Ghana signed a treaty with the British governor of the Gold Coast colony, known as the Bond of 1844, that symbolized the establishment of British sovereignty over their territories. 100 years later, 6 March 1957, Ghana became an independent sovereign nation. I was 7 years old. I still remember the excitement and euphoria that engulfed our nation. I later discovered how our new charismatic leader, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, made some profound statements that resonated all across the continent and the world. These are some of his words. I know some of you may know. First of all, he told the Brits to get out of town. He said, you leave. Arden Clark, you probably go tell the Queen, this was not his words, I'm paraphrasing. You probably go tell the Queen that we're all right, and that the African is capable of managing his own affairs, and our freedom is meaningless unless it's tied up with the total liberation of Africa. Soon after that, countries were settling for their independence. He further said, at the UN, if any African soil is left under foreign domination, the world will not see peace. He said, 15 years, our country will be an industrialized nation. That was Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. I know he meant it. But 64 years later, here we are. Here we are. Something must have gone wrong. When we look into our past since independence, I do not believe we'll be so happy for how we have managed businesses, the economy, and the country as a whole. There have been coup d'etats, pain and suffering. But the attitude of our people, to a larger extent, it has appeared that comments such as, sanity, and every Ghana there, say, yeah. So when you try to tell Ghanaians that we could have done better, and our country is not up to its potential, the remark you get immediately, if you don't like, if you think Ghana is bad, look at other countries. My answer is, why should we lower the standard to feel good? And they always bring in other African nations in comparison. My answer is, why don't you bring into the equation Malaysia, Singapore, and South Korea? They were our counterparts. A great Danish philosopher made this statement: life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. I guess Søren Kierkegaard was saying that every now and then it would be wise for us to cast a retrospective glance at our past, to know where we came from and what we're doing presently to prepare for the future. Obviously now, We live in an age where innovation, science, and technology are rapidly changing our lives, with the promise of making us much healthier, much more productive, and more prosperous. Today, we can all communicate in real time over any kind of distance. We have overcome the restraints of time and distance with technology. Now is the time for us to make investment into science and technology for the young people in Ghana and Africa at large. Otherwise, our young folks' generation cannot compete on the world stage. We will not be a great nation until every young mind is set free to scan the farthest reaches of science, mathematics, and technology. We could create a nation where every child can seek knowledge to enrich his mind and to enlarge his God-given talent. In our rural towns and villages, every school-age child should find a chair to sit on, a desk to write on, and a good teacher to learn from. Quality education is only possible when classrooms are small and curricula is constantly upgraded to meet world-class standards. This can only be achieved when, as a nation, we see the urgency in paying qualified teachers in science and technologies and other disciplines what they rightfully deserve. When we are able to provide quality education to our children, the end result is that the country and businesses benefit with adequate and well-prepared human capital who can manage crisis. Remember, buildings and machines don't teach our children. People do. Let us bring back the dignity of the teaching profession. Don't let it be like, well, if I don't get anything else, then I'll go and teach. We stand here today, each and every one of us. Have we not had teachers who guided us and took us in and trained us and taught us how to match our subject and verbs? And some of us who knew Newton's third law of motion, force is equal and opposite. We learned Archimedes' principle and all the other things because there was a teacher who cared. But today, those same teachers who taught some of us in villages said, we'll not go back there because there's no incentive and there's no proper reward. If you look at the pandemic and what we've been through, what this microscopic virus has done, it just tells me one thing, that maybe we're divided by political boundaries, but we're united by ecological systems. We woke up one day and saw that far away in China, something had happened. And since then, the world has been turned upside down. The world indeed is one world. Those who want to describe it first and second and third, COVID-19 virus, they say no. And when you read about it, it tells us about how humans just don't care about God's property. And when you don't care about God's property, there's a price you pay. There are men whom a tree has no value unless they cut it for timber. For whom an animal has no value until it enters the slaughterhouse for somebody's protein. We pollute and destroy water bodies with impunity. Our forebears, who had not gone to school to learn environmental science, knew better. They saw the earth as a sacred place and respected not only the rule of law, but the rule of nature, God's rule. In their perceived primitiveness lay a deeper philosophical understanding of how to manage the environment. And so they decided, long before we got here, that 200 feet from the river body, nobody should farm. They wanted to keep the water pure. They said large trees in the forest had a function and purpose. We should not cut them. They knew large trees taking carbon dioxide and release it for our breathing. They are not going to school. They told the hunters when they go to game, bring your game home. A lot of people thought that they just wanted to see some protein and eat some meat. They wanted to see the hunter the night before, whether he was reckless in the forest. Today, we don't care. The rule of nature says that one must live in harmony with one's environment and not dominate or destroy it. So the menace of galamsey and chainsaw operations and reckless, unsupervised community mining is killing us, and we should stop it. With this present leadership and proper policies, we can repair many of the damages done. But many of us have shed tears of anger and frustration, knowing that some of the destruction in most cases is irreversible. We cut medicinal plants and trees and send them into extinction before we can even discover the life-saving features it may hold. The solution is all hands must be on deck. That approach can work. Now let me just say this. We should stop the blame game, the insults, the name calling, the lies, the mischief. Some of us have spent a lifetime having the decision to love nature. You know, you may not like me. You may not like the way I look, or where I'm from, or what I do. But it does not give you any right to insult and to call names. When I was a student in Boston and joined the protests against apartheid in the 70s, I'll tell you that story. There was a t-shirt that I still have. And the inscription on the t-shirt says, apartheid, you gotta be in it to know it. Apartheid, you gotta be in it to know it. Most of the people who talk the way they do don't even know how we are suffering in the Galamsey area. They don't know. And what we're doing to stop it, they don't know. And another thing, if you're a father and you raise your children and one of them just go wayward, you give them all the best in life. You love them. And one goes wayward, goes into doing drugs and other things and end up in jail. Does that make you a bad father? Does that make you a bad parent? No, it doesn't. So we should watch how we talk about each other. I am a Cheney, and I'm proud to be Achim. But something more important, I'm a Ghanaian. That's more important than being Achim. And the river bodies that are being polluted and destroyed in Pra and Oti and Birin are national assets. and the interests of all of us is to make sure that we don't mess it up for next generation. All over the world, every nation is taking on the fight against environmental degradation. Our life support system is threatened. The food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe are all under siege. We're not going to only worry about Galamsey. We should also worry about poor sanitation and waste management in our cities. Accra is getting filthy. I am aware that our Honorable Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources, Madame Cecilia Abradapa, is working tirelessly to bring the situation under control and clean up the city. I applaud the new regional minister for what he's doing. But one thing we have to remember, there's a limit to the size of Accra and how many people it can comfortably accommodate. That's a fact. It's a limit. Accra is too congested. When the charter of this nation was built, it was a nation state. It was never a city state. It's obvious. Now, we inherited a civil service system from the British in 1957. The population there was 4.5 million people. It's quite obvious that our Ghana of 1957 cannot be our Ghana of 2021 at 35 million people. We must change. I don't know why we're petrified about change. We cannot remain here. We cannot be doing the same thing over and over and over. And as Albert Einstein says, if you do that and expect different results, I'll leave it there. We suffer from status quo paralysis. We don't want to change. But life was not meant to be this endless treadmill of monotonous existence. You have to change. You have to change to grow. So you went and took an exam, and you prepared and you failed, and you fail again. You need to change your studying habits. We need to change. And I know the task to change is a tough one. It's not for the faint-hearted. Neither is it for those unwilling to make the hard choices. We've gotten to a point in this country that we need to make that hard choices. Brings me to my next point. We need to decentralize this country. Not tomorrow, yesterday. Tired of paying lip service to decentralization. Decentralization will have more effect on development programs. We now know that systems that are small and local are relatively immune to failure. Development is not something somebody will do for you. Government can help create the conditions, give encouragement, and carefully offer some resources that do not replace but add to what the people already have within themselves and around them. Sustainable development will only work if the people who live in the community take the process and own the projects. Decentralization will give people a dignity of voice and self-determination. They will feel that they own that process. It will also bring out transparency and accountability and expose corrupt people. No country has ever reached their social economic potential just because of what the country has by way of natural resource endowment. But they've gotten there by what the country knows, knowledge. The pursuit of wealth is now the pursuit of knowledge. This continuous unfolding of ideas and knowledge and intellectual capital is the principal cause of some countries to progressively do more with less. Singapore, we have more than they have. Malaysia, South Korea. Not only did they apply ideas, these countries live and respect and defend the rule of law. They live within the bounds of their constitution. We have grown to accept lawlessness in our country. It's part of the makeup. So we have more, we're applying our knowledge, and we are lawless. So we were with them, their counterparts. If you care to know, check where they are now and where we are. It's not magical. Our president has entreated us to get away from the Gettysburg economy of raw material export and apply value to our raw materials for export. In the global cocoa industry, which is worth of about 120 billion, the number one and number two producers of cocoa combined share of just about 2 billion. We are the it, somebody says. We're the one that grow the cocoa from start. There's 120 billion market out there, and we only share 2 billion. We're not applying ideas. This forum, this auditorium, is a manifestation of somebody's idea and thought. Where we sit, somebody thought about it, put idea to work. So you're here and you're going to be trained to be critical thinkers and to create new ideas and to be innovative. We in this country have made some impressive strides. I'm not going to say that we haven't done anything in our socio-economic growth, but please, we can't be complacent. It is not enough. This year, as you graduate, 80,000 graduates will come out in this country this year. And I hear there are only about 10,000 jobs. So that the knowledge, the midnight burning a candle to study, the idea is ever picked up, it's all up here on your cerebral. Your diploma will get you to the door. But believe me, when you go to the door, there must be a market that will take you in. There must be a market. Because the formula for success is you need to prepare and you need to have talent. But if you have both and you have no opportunity, you go nowhere. So we need to create opportunity in this country for teaming young people coming up. And the only way we can do that is if we allow young Ghanaians, young entrepreneurs to have access to credit, young stalwart entrepreneurs to have support, to apply for their bankable business plans, to open up businesses. I know you're going to prepare. I know the government is trying to create a more conducive environment system. But who is going to open businesses with the present interest rate? And no one has been able to establish any business without help coming from the banks. And we have accepted it, 35%, 28%. And I'm sure that the finance minister and his team may have to do something about it. Because otherwise, this problem will continue. Let's talk about something that all of us know, corruption. You know, it's a global pandemic. Dambisa Moyo, a Zambian economist, writer, said it best in a book that day. She said there are two types of corruption. There's one she called positive corruption, and the other is negative corruption. As you read, you find she assigned positive type of corruption to the Asian tigers, where money stolen in the country are reinvested in the same country. Our type of corruption, we take it and the money takes a flight. I find it so hopelessly sad that a public office worker, or anybody for that matter, would dip their hands into the public tip and sponge from it monies that will build roads and bridges and schools and hospitals and pay teachers well. Pack it up and take it overseas to the same people who one time colonized us. You know, ladies and gentlemen, from that, it takes the realm of criminality into evil. And it must be punished. Evil. And for them, they got fat accounts and they think they're successful. No, you're not. Because that account is stained with the blood of the poor. You're not successful. Because in getting there, you may have made some people more poor to get there. Future generations will not be kind to you. And they will not mount a monument in your name. Great men and women are the ones who rise above the individual concerns, the narrow concerns, and embrace the concerns of community. They are the ones who take the public good over private gain and private profit. Great men. So when you go into history and read about great men, no one remembers them of the money they had. They won't remember that you had 4 cars in Islington and 4 houses in Transaco. What have you done for somebody? What did you do when you were in charge of helping others? Infrastructure. It is shameful for me to think that in 64 years, this country has not been able to build a superhighway between Accra and Kumasi. 64 years. We need to open up our country. And open up our country will be connecting disadvantaged people and their communities to social economic opportunities. When we open up our country, Accra to Cape Coast, you allow other investors not to remain in Accra, but come further. And more importantly, when you build up and open up and build dual carriages, we stop people dying on our highways. So this is what I suggested long time ago. And I keep saying that maybe when you are in this club and wear these sandals, your voice don't go far. I want you to be honest. We need to move ministries out of Accra into Ghana, into the 16 regions. First, what is the Ministry of Forestry and Lands doing in Accra? What is the Ministry of Agriculture doing in Accra? Why do we have a big, huge edifice, a cocoa ball, Ghana's cocoa, the farmers out there in Accra? What is the Ministry of Mineral Commission doing in Accra? I just rode by the other day and I saw Forestry Commission. They live in a glass house in Accra. See, what we do is once we do that, we are opening up new township. We're invited other investors to come. And the new township real estate will go up. Hospitals will be built. Teachers will no longer feel that they have to be in Accra. They will go there and teach because there will be incentives. And that will cater for the 80% of our population who are excluded from the economic landscape in our country. They are there, they're not working, and they're not paying taxes. The ministers and the heads of the department can remain here. You can build local government. You can build in Wasa, Ministry of Lands and Forestry. The workforce have to be there. That will solve. I may not be here when they do it, but I can tell you that will solve a lot of our problems. Bigger countries do that. Why not us? London didn't have Milton Keynes. When they started decentralizing, they took businesses to Milton Keynes. In America, the Department of Agriculture is not in Washington, D.C. They are in Iowa, where the farms are, and North Carolina, where the farms are. And we're stuck here. All the trucks that are supposed to be in the forest are here. And these graduates, I bet you, as you write up your resumes, you're looking within Accra because there's nothing out there. Don't give me a resume in Chip because I have no job there for you. So it's all congested, empty in here. And the other thing, we need to own our country. We got independence. I thought independence meant we're sovereign. And sovereignty to me meant that you own your country. But we don't. And so now in Africa, there's something going on called local content legislation. I say, what about local ownership legislation? We need to find a way to make our young people owners of businesses. When you own, you're in charge. When you own, you take the profits. We cannot continue to be employees and tenants in our own country. I spoke to the finance minister the other day and he said he's struggling to keep us from huge expenditure and not commensurate with the revenues that are coming in. And that's the key, that you cannot let your outgo exceed your income. If you continue to do that, your upkeep will be your downfall. You fall and you go bankrupt, and the next thing you do, you want to go borrow. somewhere in the Bible, I read in Proverbs 22:7, and the borrower will be a slave to the lender. It's clear. Especially with these interest rates. If you go for a loan, you're working for the bank at this interest rate. But then it gives you, the book says slave. Just for a moment, just think about a slave. Who is a slave? A slave don't own business. Slave settles for less. Slaves do not have bargaining power. So you negotiate out of fear, or you fear to negotiate. That's why we have minimum laws that give somebody 80% and Ghanaians will have to take 20%. Because you know what? Kwame Nkrumah said divestiture was in this country. When it happened, Ghanaians could not buy the properties because we didn't have money. I wonder when I hear people say that, oh, I'm going to go, Ghana. Divestiture was open. You could not afford it because we have not made. See, when Nkrumah was here, he was building everything around the state. And Nkrumah just said, there were state factories. The mistake then was there was a socialist agenda. The factories were managed by government officials. They could not separate the management and the ownership. And gradually, it was going down. So we come up in 1992 with a legal foundation that's socialist, and we're trying to build a capitalist structure on that, and it's not working. That's why we're baby stepping in our development. We need to change the pattern. And I say, I don't know what to do. We have to make sure, have a deliberate policy to make you owners of business. We want to be a wealthy nation, but we cannot do that unless the people who live in it are wealthy. You know, things have not gone right because we are stuck. We're not moving. We're not changing things. But I am absolutely confident that with this new crop of students and the support and good business environment that has been created by government, the country will move forward. But we need to have courage and political will to change it. This president is doing his job his best. Ghana beyond aid is a thing we only hear. But we need to build it up. We need it. And he's always said he doesn't want people monopolizing our businesses. You have to be ready. Yours will be a great responsibility. You may have to work triple harder to get that far. But please don't give up. Because there's hope still here in this country. Let's have a parting thoughts for you, the graduates. Shift your focus from existing public and private sector jobs and apply innovation and creativity to start and grow your own SMEs. I just said that where's the money coming from, but hold on to hope. The easiest way to create a business is to identify a problem near you and begin to think of providing a solution. You create business out of the solution to the problem. Develop and sustain practice of self-discipline and eschew moral decadence and moral turpitude. You have to adopt a habit of making good friends with positive influence and endeavor to keep such friends for good. It's key. Don't hang around. Don't hang around with those who may not have goals. It was Benjamin Mays who said that the tragedy of life is not reaching your goal. The tragedy is not having a goal to reach. Don't walk around with people who have no goals to reach. Get the best education, which you have gotten, with cutting-edge skills. Skills, I mean skills, and education without skills is like a dam without water. The age-old chew, pour, and pass does not hold sway anymore. Now, a lot of people are holding degrees because they pass. And when you take the paper away, man, you can't have a conversation. Employers are looking for the persons with the right skills, not just degrees. Education is expected to equip graduates with critical thinking skills. This is undoubtedly an important success factor. University centers of excellence with very useful postal address, but above all, they are arguably the most fertile grounds for building networks. Take full advantage. Make a radical departure from the proverbial Ghanaian attitude towards work. The reason Indians and Filipinos are taking our jobs. I have two business friends of mine. He said he's opened up a big poultry and he has contracted an Israeli to come and work for him at $8,000 a month. Obviously, my question is, why are you going that far? He said he employed two Ghanaians who stole everything he had on the farm. So the Indians and Filipinos are taking over well-paid jobs. So the change I'm talking about is not only about systems and structures. It's about us. We need to change our attitude. Adopt a new meaning of the words impact and legacy. Wealth is important, but we should not always see existence as cedis and pesos or dollars and cents. Above all, when it's well with you, remember where you came from. When it's well with you, remember where you came from. We all come from some town or some village. Go back home. See the school that you attended. Find the teacher who taught you. Go look at the old lady who probably sold her clothes on her back so that you could get a little education. She's probably sitting there toothless with arthritis aching her body. Meanwhile, you're here in a crowd. Everybody in your village is a witch. The reason the Jews are successful is they always believe in a sense of belonging, a culture, a home to go to. Of course. Most of you don't even bring your children to where you went to school. You don't even know your towns. Don't forget your roots. Don't forget your roots. Talking about even this campus. 20 years from now, come back. UPSA. 20 years ago, God bless you with prosperity. Come and drop something here. We don't know that. I dream a new Ghana. Ghana with reinvigorated sense of purpose. A Ghana devoid of unnecessary politicking and rancor. A Ghana devoid of abject poverty and deprivation and squalor. A Ghana which has taken its rightful and deserving place in the community of nations. A Ghana in which hard work and integrity are rewarded. A Ghana in which a child born in anywhere within its boundaries has a fair and reasonable chance to make it to the pinnacle of society. The geography of birth should not deny any child a chance in life. New Ghana we all embrace and call a happy home. And we can only make this grand dream a reality through collective concerted efforts. All hands must be on deck. Undoubtedly, our country is at a crossroad. Indeed, our countries have experienced similar moments in the past. However, similar circumstances in 1965 and in less than a decade, they became one of the most prominent economies in Asia, hosting businesses like Samsung, whose product soon will be found. I'm talking about Singapore. I still believe we can leverage our ideas, bold strategies, and our will to succeed to create sustainable business that can take root, grow into emerging players, and transit into global champions. I look forward to reading about the practical solutions developed by UPSA students one day, which promoted business sustainability, growth, and enterprise across Ghana. I am confident that each one of you has the will and ingenuity to make this happen. But you know, before I take my seat, I always want to remind Ghanaians about something that changed my attitude towards this country. You know, when we were kids, we sang a song called Yenga Yasasini Ifrimamu. We sang it and we never understood the meaning. Because there's some heavy laden word tree words that we never understood. Maybe tonight, after I leave, you can go and find out. Ifrimamu said, Yengara Yasashi, the corporate ownership of this land. He said, our forebears struggled and suffered to get us far. He challenged us to make a contribution to our country. I told me, no, see you being out. And here's the point where we never understood. Say, Kotokrani, Indian transfer, Pesemi Kuminya. These are words that some adults here don't even understand. But you sang it anyway. Kotokrani, those people who never want anything good to come. In their chance of public office, arrogance, pessimicumia, greed, and selfishness. If Mamu 87 years ago said, these are the things that will sell this country short. And went further. If we make it as a nation, you can pat yourself on the back and say to each other, a job well done. And if we fail, say, don't blame it on the white folks, on imperialism, on slavery. May it be you in you shall know rebels. All Ifrimamu is telling us, if you read it, my literature mind is what I put together to come up, because I just sang the song. He said, it's about time we assume complete responsibility for what all of us, and the burden of guilt is placed on your feet and my feet. Let's assume responsibility for what we have come to this great real estate called Ghana. I thank you. God bless you.
That was a wonderful display of culture, and you always have to make room for culture. Indeed, His Royal Majesty has spoken, and there is nothing useful to add. Absolutely nothing. I'm going to invite Elon GH to come on the stage, and at the same time, I would humbly request the Vice Chancellor of UPSA, Professor Abednego Amate, and also the Dean of the faculty organizing this program, Dr. John Mensah Mauto. We will quickly also invite the global alumni, in fact, the president of the UPSA Global Alumni, Mr. Francis Dazi, to also join them as we do a presentation to His Royal Majesty and also to Nana Akomea. We're not going to come up, we will do it down there so that we don't let His Royal Majesty come up again. So the three names I've mentioned will come, and the bearers of the presentations will come as Elon GH sings for us.
Thank you very much. How many of you believe God has been good to us? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much indeed, Elon GH. That's a real talent there. Let's quickly acknowledge our partners who helped in putting this program together. First, we have the UPSA Global Alumni. Please put your hands together for the UPSA Global Alumni. Thank you very much for your contributions and for making this a success. We also have Digital Press, Picture Perfect Print. Please appreciate Digital Press for their contribution. And for the other partner, Special Eyes. Special Eyes. Please put your hands together also for Special Eyes. There are three media partners who partnered in this program. The first is TV3. So we appreciate you, TV3. And the next is Graphic Business. Now, Graphic Business will want all of you to go online to your apps, the app download. So if you are using an Apple phone, maybe the Apple Store. If you are using an Android phone, you go to the Play Store. They want you to download their app so that you can have real access to news. Asasi Radio also wants you to do the same. We also have an app. Download our app. you will get up-to-date news, and our dial indeed is 99.5. Do well to tune in and listen to us. A lot of good things happening on Asasi Radio. As we end this program, I will respectfully ask Professor Abednego Amate, the Vice Chancellor of UPSA, to do his quick closing remarks, after which Ellis Otu will give us the vote of thanks. Please, the Vice Chancellor.
Summarize this, because we've had two case studies right here. The case of, or the tale of the two Nanas. Nana, who is the son of the bigger Nana. And interestingly, they presented two case studies for us. The first one was that of a company. In fact, there are two companies here. One smaller company, the ills they went through, and what you have to do to get out of it. The show of leadership. The second company is the company called Ghana. And the hills that we have gone through, the troubles we have gone through, and we are being invited as the leaders of this country, the future leaders of this country. And then I pose the question, the 5 years, 20 years, when he comes back, or when you come back, what are you going to do for Ghana? So I think the bigger the question, we saw how the smaller Nana solved the problem of the smaller company called STC. The bigger company called Ghana, they are inviting every one of us to help solve this problem. That's a brilliant case study that I can't wait to give to my students to solve it. I hear about the complaints in the lecture halls, how air conditions are not working and markets cannot be found. At least with these two lectures, you can forgive us. Your fees, you have finished everything by these two lectures. So I'm glad you are here. I'm extremely glad that I came. But I don't want this to be a talk show. This should give us sleepless nights. How do we solve the problems of Ghana? From the environment to corruption, and I like the fact that some are positive, some are negative. But corruption is corruption. Then we have the issue of Ghana about the youth, how we treat our teachers. And he touched on the insults that we see on social media, when even 18-year-olds can insult their grandfathers without any apology. I do hope that it will not be said of any UPSA student. But my last statement, which made my day, what Anna said was that 20 years from now, we will drop something in UPSA. But now let me paraphrase that and say, next year by this time, I expect to buy air conditions for UPSA, buy projectors for UPSA, and pay your alumni dues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chancellor, I should say. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Now, when I was acknowledging our partners, I mentioned Digital Press. The name is actually NND Digital Press. NND Digital Press. Now, we didn't have the opportunity to read the citation to everyone. I was trying to see if I could do that from here, but I have some delay with technology, and so I'm sure we would overlook that, and we'll send it around so that you see exactly what the UPSA citation said to Nana Nkrumah and also to His Royal Majesty Osajefo Amoitia Ofori-Penyin. All right, so quickly, we're going to ask Elsa Otu, he's an MBA student here, to give us the vote of thanks, and we will bring this ceremony to an end. Elsa, please.
His Royal Majesty Osajefo Amoitia Ofori-Penyin, Nananom, Honorable Nana Akomia, Professor Abednego Oko Amate, Vice Chancellor for the University of Professional Studies, Dr. Kweku Mauto, the Dean of Graduate School, the registrar, faculty, invited guests, staff members, ladies and gentlemen. A very good evening to all. It gives me immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this event. I will take this golden opportunity to thank the respected, eminent guest of this function, His Royal Majesty, Osajifo Amwetia Ofoipain. Nana, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. We say Nyamin Shurao, Nana Munkwaso. I would also like to thank Honorable Nana Akomia. Honorable, we are grateful for the knowledge imparted to us. We will cultivate the advice you gave us in real life. We will implement team building, and we will build a mind that solves problems. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our beloved Vice Chancellor, the Dean of Graduate School, staff members, faculty, and all graduate students for making this event a great success. Once again, I thank one and all present. Thank you. Nyamin Shramunya.
Thank you very much, Elsa. So, by way of housekeeping, our last housekeeping issues, if you're a student and you haven't signed the attendance form or document, please make it a point to sign because it counts. And so please do that. All right. So, last on the program, we are going to ask Mustafa Idrisu, UPSA Chief Imam, to do us the honors of closing this ceremony. Mustafa Idrisu.
Barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Your Royal Highness, by my training as an imam, I am not supposed to stand in front of a king, a chief, or a traditional ruler to say a prayer. I am supposed to be sitting on the floor to say the prayers. But I would love to indulge or to ask for your indulgence. This is the platform. If you indulge me, I will stand. If you wouldn't, I will do it as my custom asks me to. Thank you so much. Thank you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Allah, you are the giver of life, you are the sustainer of mankind. You are the provider of everything that man ever desires. You brought us together this evening, and we want to thank you for the favor that you have done to us. We pray for Nana, who took time and left his people and came to join us here. We pray for long life for him. We pray for good health for Nana and his entourage. He has a lot of people that are under him, far and wide in Ghana and elsewhere outside the country. We ask, O Allah, to grant him the wisdom, to grant him the strength, to grant him the power, to grant him the protection, and grant him the blessing to be able to take care of all the people who are under his watch. I also want to pray for Nana Kumia, who also came here to impart knowledge onto our students. I also want to pray for our Vice Chancellor, the Dean of the Graduate School, all members of staff, our graduate students here, everybody who has made time to come here. Oh Allah, we commit everyone into your care. We ask for your blessings. We ask for your protection. We ask for your care. We ask for your guidance. Nana will be leaving here and traveling back we ask for his protection on the road. Everyone that has come here, we ask for their protection as we embark on our journeys back home. There is COVID, and we pray to Almighty Allah to protect each and every one of us from COVID. May Allah grant us good health. May Allah grant us long life. May Allah protect UPSA. May Allah protect everyone that has come here. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Malik Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata allazina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Mustafa Idris, UPSA Chief Imam, on behalf of the University of also UPSA Graduate School. Let me thank all of you for the privilege of your company. We closed. Okay, I'm sorry about that. But because we have very important personalities here, we are all going to remain seated, and once the chief is on his feet, we will all rise up on our feet. We will have him and his entourage leave the premises, and then after that we can all disperse. So please rise up to your feet as we see over His Royal Majesty.